On today's episode of Alpha Male Fan Fiction, I intentionally missed my connecting flight through LaGuardia tonight because I am disgusted by the city's treatment of President Trump. After my original flight had departed, I stormed to the customer service desk to rebook my flight home through a city that still respects the rule of law. I'll admit I've been in a sour mood since 5:09 p.m. Eastern Time when the most crooked verdict in American legal history came down against President Trump, but I was polite as possible to the agent. "I'm so sorry you were delayed and missed your flight, Mr. Adams," the young male gate agent with glasses and a slim frame said with his eyes fixed on his computer screen. "We have another flight to LaGuardia departing in 52 minutes, and I can rebook." "I wasn't delayed," I interjected. "I arrived early. I sat at the gate until the plane lifted off and came straight here." The agent looked back at me quizzically, but I stared blankly back at him. I see. Well," he stuttered. "I'm done with New York permanently," I said intensely. "After the way Alvin Bragg, Judge Merchant, and the kangaroo court treated President Trump today, I am engaged in a complete and total boycott of New York City." The agent, Tristan, shifted his weight awkwardly as his eyes darted around the room. "Look here, son," I said, leaning over the counter and into his personal space, placing my right hand menacingly on his left shoulder. "You are going to find me another route to my destination within the next 2 hours, one that does not connect through New York City or enter its airspace. Can you understand that?" Despite my best efforts, my frustration had begun to show. Tristan quickly apologized and called in a supervisor for assistance in meeting my demands. I took a step back from the counter to check my phone when I couldn't help but overhear a man with a deep, masculine voice demanding he also be rebooked to avoid New York. I looked over to see a tall man about my age with a strong build and a thick beard, looking equally frustrated. I started to size him up when Tristan interrupted with a proclamation that he had rebooked me on a new flight, this time to Boston, that began boarding in 37 minutes. Once I had arrived at the gate, I noticed the same muscular bearded man from the customer service desk. I decided to approach the man to kill time while we waited to board. "Looking to avoid New York too?" I said as I slid into the seat next to him and sat with my legs spread wide apart. "I am," he said. "I've had enough of that place. The Trump trial was the last straw for my wife and me. We're so done." I shook his big, strong, masculine hand, and he told me his name was Dexter. He was a highly successful real estate investor and passionate Trump supporter. Much like Nick Adams, Dexter began divesting from NYC within the hour of President Trump's phony conviction. He told me he had already spoken to dozens of his colleagues who also confided in him that they were also quietly pulling their assets out of the region in solidarity with the president. "I'm not sure this city will be able to handle this amount of economic contraction without some serious structural changes," he said as we boarded. "I've already pulled out of several major business deals in New York today alone," I replied. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was the right thing to do. Much to my chagrin, Dexter was not assigned a seat next to me in first class. I was seated next to an attractive blonde woman in her late 20s, while Dexter was sitting in a row near the front of business class. I asked the young lady to swap seats with Dex. She hesitated but complied with a bit of pressure, and we took off. We got to know each other on our flight, worked out an 8-figure deal, and made plans to link up again for golf next week. Let this be a lesson to all. Stand rock hard on your principles, even if it isn't easy. You never know what opportunities might present themselves when you do. And scene. Man, what the